I never thought success could taste so bitter. There I was, sitting in the marble-floored conference room of Morrison and Associates, the city's most prestigious talent agency, watching my signature dry on a $10 million contract. The golden pen felt heavy in my trembling hands, not from nerves, but from pure disbelief. Jessica Martinez, the girl who'd been told she'd never amount to anything, had just signed the biggest modeling deal in the agency's history. The fluorescent lights reflected off the pristine white pages, and I could smell the expensive leather of the chairs around the mahogany table. Mr. Morrison himself shook my hand, his cologne mixing with the scent of fresh coffee from his assistant's cup. "Congratulations, Jessica. You've just become the face of Luxe Cosmetics' global campaign. This is going to change your life forever." If only I'd known how right he was, just not in the way I expected. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Amanda's graduation party tonight. Don't be late." I smiled, thinking this would be perfect. I could announce my incredible news during Amanda's celebration. My little sister would be so proud of her big sister finally making it big. After 25 years of being told I was the family disappointment, I finally had something worthy of their pride. The drive home to our childhood neighborhood felt different somehow. The familiar tree-lined streets of Maple Grove seemed brighter, the autumn leaves more vibrant against the crisp October sky. I pulled into the driveway of our 2-story colonial house, the same house where I'd grown up always feeling like I didn't quite belong. But today would be different. Today, I belonged. The warm glow from the living room windows spilled onto the front porch, and I could hear laughter and conversation flowing from inside. Mom had strung fairy lights around the doorframe, and balloons in Amanda's favorite purple and gold colors bobbed in the evening breeze. The smell of her famous pot roast drifted through the screen door, making my stomach growl. I'd been too nervous to eat before the contract signing. I pushed open the front door, practically bouncing with excitement. "I'm home! And do I have news for you guys?" The living room fell silent. About 15 family members and friends were gathered around Amanda, who stood near the fireplace holding her diploma, her blonde hair perfectly curled and her smile radiant. She looked exactly like the golden child she'd always been, Mom's mini-me with those same bright blue eyes and perfect bone structure. "Jessica!" Mom rushed over. But instead of the warm embrace I expected, she grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the kitchen. "Sweetheart, we're in the middle of Amanda's moment. Can this wait?" "Wait?" I stared at Patricia Martinez, my mother, whose graying hair was pulled back in an elegant bun, her makeup flawless even at 55. She wore the pearl necklace Dad had given her for their anniversary, the one she only brought out for special occasions. "Mom, I just signed a $10 million contract. I think that's worth sharing. Jessica Marie Martinez." Dad's voice boomed from across the room. David Martinez still commanded attention at 58, his salt and pepper beard perfectly trimmed, his broad shoulders filling out his best button-down shirt. "Can't you see this is Amanda's night? For once, just once, could you not make everything about yourself?" The words hit me like ice water. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me, and the familiar burning sensation of embarrassment crept up my neck. Aunt Carol shifted uncomfortably on the sofa. Cousin Mike suddenly found his beer bottle fascinating. Uncle Tom cleared his throat and looked away. "I'm not trying to make it about me," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I just thought you'd want to know that That you what?" Amanda stepped forward, her voice sharp with that particular brand of cruelty she'd perfected over the years. At 22, she'd grown into the beauty everyone always said she'd become. But right now, her pretty features were twisted with annoyance. "That you managed to book some little local gig? This is my graduation party, Jess. I just finished my master's degree in business. Could you please let me have this one night?" "Local gig?" I opened my mouth to explain, but Mom was already ushering me toward the staircase. "Why don't you go freshen up, honey? We'll talk about your little job later. Right now, we want to hear all about Amanda's plans for her new position at Davidson Financial." As I climbed the stairs to my old bedroom, I could hear the conversation resume below, animated and warm. Someone started telling a story about Amanda's thesis presentation. Laughter erupted. Dad's proud voice carried up the stairs. "That's my girl. Always knew she'd be running her own company someday." I sat on the edge of my childhood bed, staring at the faded boy band posters still taped to the walls. The same walls that had heard me cry myself to sleep countless nights, wondering why I was never enough for them. The same room where I'd practiced acceptance speeches in the mirror, dreaming of the day my family would finally see me as more than the problematic older daughter who never quite measured up. My phone buzzed. A congratulatory text from my agent. "Jessica, Morrison called. They want to fast-track the campaign launch. You're about to be everywhere. This is just the beginning, superstar." Just the beginning. I should have been dancing around this room, calling my friends, posting on social media. Instead, I sat in the suffocating silence, listening to my family celebrate my sister's achievements while my own monumental success went unacknowledged. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Mom was right. This was Amanda's night, and I could share my news tomorrow. I'd spent 25 years learning to shrink myself to make others comfortable. What was one more night? I headed back downstairs, plastering on the smile I'd perfected over the years. The smile that said, "I'm fine with being invisible." "There she is." Dad's voice boomed again, but this time it carried a different tone. Relief, maybe? "We were just telling everyone about Amanda's job offer. Starting salary of $65,000. Can you believe it?" I forced enthusiasm into my voice. "That's amazing, Amanda. Really." Amanda beamed, and for a moment I saw a flash of something in her eyes. Triumph? But that couldn't be right. We were sisters. She wanted me to succeed too, didn't she? The party continued around me. I helped Mom serve dessert, Amanda's favorite chocolate cake with buttercream frosting. I listened to story after story about my sister's accomplishments, her professor's praise, her bright future. Every time I opened my mouth to contribute anything about my own life, someone would interrupt or change the subject. "Jessica, could you grab more napkins from the kitchen?" Mom asked during a rare lull in the Amanda Appreciation Fest. As I walked toward the kitchen, I overheard Aunt Carol whispering to Mom, "Patricia, what's Jessica up to these days? Still doing that modeling thing?" "Oh, you know Jessica," Mom replied with a sigh. "She's always chasing some dream or another. We keep hoping she'll settle down and find something stable like Amanda." Chasing dreams. As if landing a $10 million contract with one of the world's biggest cosmetics companies was just another flight of fancy from their disappointing older daughter. I stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, holding a package of napkins, feeling like I was suffocating. 25 years of this. 25 years of being the afterthought, the problem child, the one who never quite lived up to expectations. Even when I achieved something extraordinary, it was dismissed as chasing dreams. When I returned with the napkins, the conversation had shifted to Amanda's love life. Apparently, she was dating some wonderful guy from her graduate program, and Mom couldn't stop gushing about how mature and stable he was. "What about you, Jessica?" Uncle Tom asked, and I felt a flicker of hope. Finally, someone was including me. "Are you seeing anyone?" Before I could answer, Amanda laughed. "Jess is married to her career. She doesn't have time for relationships." "That's not true," I started. "Come on, Jess. When was the last time you brought someone home? You're so focused on trying to be famous that you don't even have a social life." The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. I could feel my cheeks burning with humiliation. Every person in that room was looking at me with pity. Poor Jessica, the almost 30 spinster still chasing impossible dreams, while her younger sister had everything figured out. "I actually have been seeing someone," I lied, desperate to defend myself. "His name is Michael, and he's—" "Oh, please." Amanda rolled her eyes. "You don't have to make up boyfriends, Jess. It's okay to be single. Not everyone can be in a relationship." The cruelty in her voice was unmistakable now. This wasn't sisterly teasing. This was deliberate humiliation. And my parents were just sitting there, letting it happen. Actually, they were worse than passive observers. Dad was nodding along, and Mom wore that expression she got when she was embarrassed by something I'd done. Amanda's right. Mom said gently, as if she were trying to spare my feelings. Maybe you should focus on finding stability before worrying about dating. Get your life settled first. Get my life settled. I had just signed a contract worth more than most people made in a lifetime, and they thought my life needed settling. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. I excused myself to the bathroom where I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, same face that would soon be on billboards across the country. But in this house, I might as well have been invisible. When I returned to the living room, I made one final attempt to share my news. I waited for a natural pause in the conversation and took a deep breath. You know what, everyone? I do have some exciting news to share. Today, I signed a modeling contract with— Oh, Jessica, Mom interrupted with a strained smile. We've talked about this. Tonight is about Amanda. But Mom, this is really big. It's with Luxe Cosmetics, and it's worth $10 million. $10 million? Amanda laughed, and it wasn't a kind sound. Jess, come on! Nobody makes $10 million modeling unless you're like Giselle Bundchen. You don't have to exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. I can show you the contract. Jessica. Dad's voice carried a warning now. Enough. We're happy for whatever little job you booked, but let's not get carried away with fantasies. This is supposed to be a celebration for Amanda's real accomplishment. Real accomplishment. The words echoed in my head as I stood there, contract copies in my purse, surrounded by family members who refused to believe that I could achieve something extraordinary. The party wound down over the next hour. Relatives hugged Amanda goodbye, congratulating her again and again. A few of them gave me polite smiles and pats on the shoulder, the kind you give to the family member everyone feels sorry for. After the last guest left, I helped Mom clean up while Amanda disappeared upstairs to call her boyfriend. Dad settled into his recliner with the remote, already moving on from his daughter's special night. Mom, I tried one more time as we loaded the dishwasher. Can I please just show you the contract? I think you'll be surprised. Patricia Martinez looked up from rinsing plates, and for a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Annoyance? Exhaustion? Sweetheart, she said in that tone she used when she was trying to be patient with me. I know you want to feel important, and that's natural, but you can't keep making up stories to get attention. It's not healthy. Making up stories. My own mother thought I was lying about the biggest achievement of my life. That night, I lay in my childhood bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the evening. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photos I'd taken of the signed contract earlier that day. $10 million. A global campaign. My face on billboards in Times Square. And my family thought it was a fantasy. For the first time in my life, I started to wonder if maybe the problem wasn't me. Maybe the problem was them. But that thought felt dangerous, disloyal. These were my parents, my sister. They loved me, didn't they? They just wanted me to be realistic, to protect me from disappointment. That's what families did. At least, that's what I told myself as I finally drifted off to sleep, clutching my phone with the photos of a contract my family refused to believe existed. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of muffled argument coming from downstairs. I crept to the top of the staircase, trying to make out the words. Told you she was getting delusional. Dad's voice carried up the stairs. $10 million? For modeling? She's lost touch with reality. I'm worried about her, Mom replied. Maybe we should suggest therapy. This need for attention is getting out of hand. Therapy. Because achieving success was apparently a mental health issue. I tiptoed back to my room and quietly packed my bag. I'd driven here from my apartment in the city, planning to stay the weekend, but I couldn't spend another minute in this house where my biggest triumph was treated like a psychological problem. As I carried my suitcase downstairs, Amanda appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her pajamas, coffee mug in hand. Leaving so soon? She asked, and there was something in her voice I couldn't quite identify. Yeah, I have some work stuff to take care of. She studied my face for a moment, then smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. You know, Jess, it's really sad watching you make up these elaborate stories, $10 million? Seriously? Do you even hear yourself? The cruelty in her voice was unmistakable now. This wasn't concern or skepticism. This was enjoyment. She was enjoying my humiliation. I'm not making it up, I said quietly. Right. She took a sip of her coffee, never breaking eye contact. Well, when you're ready to come back to reality, maybe we can have a real conversation about your actual life. I walked out of that house carrying more than just my weekend bag. I was carrying 25 years of accumulated pain, dismissal, and the growing realization that maybe my family didn't have my best interests at heart. The drive back to the city gave me time to think, really think, about all the times my achievements had been minimized, my dreams dismissed, my feelings invalidated, about how Amanda could do no wrong while I could do nothing right, about how I'd spent my entire life trying to earn love that might not actually exist. But I pushed those thoughts away. They were my family. This was just a misunderstanding. Once the campaign launched and my face was everywhere, they'd understand. They'd be proud. I just had to prove myself first. The Luxe Cosmetics campaign moved quickly. Within 2 weeks, I was shooting with world-renowned photographers, working with celebrity makeup artists, wearing clothes that cost more than most people's cars. The energy on set was electric. Everyone kept saying this was going to be huge, career-defining, life-changing. I sent pictures to my family group chat, photos of me getting my makeup done, behind-the-scenes shots from the photo shoots, even a picture with the campaign's creative director who'd won 3 Emmy Awards for his commercial work. The responses were lukewarm at best. Mom, nice pictures, honey. Hope you're being safe. Dad, remember to stay humble. Amanda, cute. Looks like a fun photo shoot. Photo shoot. As if this were some small-time local gig instead of a global campaign that would run in every major market worldwide. But I told myself they just didn't understand the industry. Once they saw the finished ads, once they realized the scope of what I'd accomplished, everything would change. 3 weeks later, the first billboard went up in Times Square. My agent sent me a photo. My face, 30 feet tall, glowing against the New York skyline with the Luxe Cosmetics logo beneath it. I was everywhere. Magazines, bus stops, digital billboards, television commercials during prime time. My phone exploded with notifications. Friends from high school, college classmates, people I barely knew reaching out to congratulate me. Industry colleagues calling with new opportunities. My Instagram followers jumped from 3,000 to over 1 million in a single week. But my family group chat remained silent. Finally, I called Mom directly. Jessica, how are you, sweetheart? Did you see the Times Square billboard? A pause. What billboard? Mom, my face is on a 30-foot billboard in Times Square. The campaign launched last week. I've been texting you pictures. Oh, those pictures. Yes, they're very nice, dear. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about Amanda. She got another job offer and we think she should... I hung up. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my mother. And instead of feeling guilty, I felt something else entirely. Something that scared me because it was so unfamiliar. I felt angry. Actually, I felt furious. Here I was, at the peak of my career, achieving something most people only dream about, and my family was still more interested in discussing Amanda's job prospects. But the anger felt dangerous, disloyal. Good daughters don't get angry at their families. Good daughters are grateful for any attention at all. Good daughters understand that some people are just naturally more important, more interesting, more worthy of celebration. I pushed the anger down and tried to focus on work. I had more shoots coming up, meetings with directors who wanted me for music videos, offers for movie auditions. My life was transforming in ways I'd never imagined. 2 months later, I decided to visit home again. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe they'd had time to process my success. Maybe things would be different. I should have known better. I arrived at the house on a Sunday afternoon in December. Snow dusted the front lawn, and Mom's Christmas decorations were already up. Wreaths on every window, lights strung along the roofline, a massive tree visible through the living room window. Jessica! Mom greeted me with a hug that felt genuine. You look wonderful, sweetheart. So thin. Are you eating enough? Some things never changed. I'm eating fine, Mom. The camera adds 10 pounds, so I have to stay in shape for work. Of course, dear. Come in, come in. Amanda's here with her boyfriend. We can't wait for you to meet him. The living room looked like a magazine spread for perfect family Christmas. Amanda was curled up on the sofa next to a tall, handsome guy in a cable-knit sweater. Dad sat in his chair, but he got up to hug me when I walked in. There's our little star, he said, and for a moment my heart lifted. Maybe he'd finally come around. Maybe he'd seen the billboards, the commercials, the magazine covers. This is Tyler, Amanda said, not bothering to get up. Tyler, this is my sister Jessica, the one I told you about. The one I told you about? I wondered what exactly she'd said. Tyler stood to shake my hand. Nice to meet you. Amanda mentioned you do some modeling. Some modeling. I'd been the face of a global campaign for 2 months. My image had been seen by millions of people worldwide, and I did some modeling. Jessica just booked a really big job, Mom said, and I felt a surge of gratitude. Finally, she was going to acknowledge, she's very proud of it, Mom continued, although we keep telling her not to get her hopes up too high. The entertainment industry can be so unpredictable. Don't get your hopes up too high, as if I hadn't already achieved more than anyone in this room had ever dreamed of achieving. That's awesome, Tyler said politely. What kind of modeling? Before I could answer, Amanda jumped in. Oh, Jess thinks she's going to be the next supermodel. She's always been a big dreamer. Think I'm going to be, I already was. My face was currently on billboards in 12 countries. I'd been featured in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Elle. I had 3 million Instagram followers and a waiting list of brands desperate to work with me. But sitting in that living room, listening to my family diminish my accomplishments to some modeling and big dreams, I felt myself shrinking back into the role I'd played my whole life, the delusional older daughter with her head in the clouds. The afternoon progressed like a slow-motion nightmare. Amanda and Tyler were planning to get engaged. Mom couldn't stop gushing about what a catch he was. Harvard MBA, family money, already making partner track at his law firm. Dad kept clapping Tyler on the back, welcoming him to the family. When Mom brought out photo albums to show Tyler adorable pictures of the girls growing up, every story was about Amanda. Amanda's first steps, Amanda's honor roll certificates, Amanda's prom queen crown. I appeared in the background of most photos, but I might as well have been furniture. And this is Amanda's high school graduation, Mom said proudly. She was valedictorian, you know. We always knew she was destined for great things. I remembered that graduation. I'd been 22, working 3 jobs to pay for my own college while living at home. I'd bought Amanda an expensive necklace with money I couldn't afford to spend, and I'd sat in the audience cheering louder than anyone when they called her name. Later that night, after Tyler had gone home and Amanda had gone to bed, I tried one more time to connect with my parents. Mom, Dad, can we talk? They looked up from the TV, where they were watching their evening news program. Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind? I took a deep breath. I feel like you don't really understand what's happening with my career. The Lux campaign isn't just some local job. It's a global campaign. I'm making more money than I ever thought possible, and I'm getting offers for movies, magazine covers, major brand partnerships. This is everything I've worked for my whole life. Mom and Dad exchanged a look, one of those long married couple communications that happen without words. Jessica, Dad said carefully, we're happy that you're finding work. We really are. But we're also worried about you. Worried about me? You've always been prone to exaggeration, Mom said gently. Even when you were little, you'd tell these elaborate stories, make things sound bigger than they were. We love your imagination, sweetheart, but we don't want you to lose sight of reality. Prone to exaggeration. Elaborate stories. Lose sight of reality. They thought I was delusional. My own parents thought I was making up my success. I can show you the contracts, I said desperately. I can show you the bank statements, the magazine covers, the— Honey, Mom interrupted, and her voice carried that particular tone of patient exhaustion. You don't have to prove anything to us. We love you no matter what. But maybe it's time to think about what you really want from life. Amanda is settling down, building something stable. Maybe you should consider doing the same. Be more like Amanda. The message was as clear as it had always been. I went upstairs to my old room and called my agent. Jessica, perfect timing. I just got off the phone with Marvel. They want you to audition for a lead role in their next... Sarah, I interrupted, can you send me copies of everything? Contracts, payment receipts, campaign materials, press coverage, everything. Of course, but why? Is everything okay? I looked around my childhood bedroom, at the walls that had absorbed 25 years of tears and dreams and disappointment. I need to prove to my family that I'm not delusional. There was a long pause. Jess, honey, if your family can't see what you've accomplished, that's not about you being delusional. That's about them being blind. But I couldn't accept that. Not yet. These were the people who'd raised me, who were supposed to love me unconditionally. If they couldn't see my success, maybe the problem really was me. Maybe I was exaggerating, making things sound bigger than they were. Maybe I really was delusional. The next morning, I came downstairs to find Amanda making coffee in the kitchen. She was alone, Mom and Dad still asleep. Morning, she said without looking up. Sleep okay? Fine. I poured myself a cup and sat at the kitchen table where we'd eaten breakfast together for years. For a moment, we sat in silence. Then Amanda spoke, her voice casual, conversational. You know, Jess, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday. About your modeling thing. What about it? She turned to face me, leaning against the counter. In the morning light, she looked younger, more like the little sister I'd once adored, but there was something cold in her eyes. I think it's great that you're getting some work. Really, I do. But don't you think it's time to be realistic about your future? You're almost 30. Most models age out way before that. Maybe you should start thinking about what comes next. Age out, as if my career was already over before it had truly begun. Amanda, I just signed the biggest contract of my life. My career is just getting started. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. Is it though? Or is this just one job that you're blowing out of proportion because you want so badly for it to be something bigger? The question hit like a physical blow, because deep down, in the part of my mind that had been shaped by 25 years of being dismissed and minimized, I wondered the same thing. I'm not blowing anything out of proportion. Okay, she shrugged. If you say so. I just worry about you sometimes. You've always lived in this fantasy world where you're the star, where everything revolves around you. But real life isn't like that, Jess. Real life is about being practical, making smart choices, building something stable. Being practical, making smart choices, building something stable. Everything I wasn't, according to my family. You think I live in a fantasy world? Amanda's expression softened slightly, and for a moment she looked like she actually cared. I think you want so badly to be special, to be the center of attention, that you sometimes lose track of what's real and what's wishful thinking. Want to be special. Want to be the center of attention. As if achieving success was just another manifestation of my supposedly pathological need for validation. That afternoon, I drove back to the city with Amanda's words echoing in my head. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was exaggerating. Maybe a global campaign with a major cosmetics company wasn't as big a deal as I thought it was. Maybe everyone in the industry was just being nice, playing along with my delusions. By the time I reached my apartment, I'd almost convinced myself that my family was right. I was prone to exaggeration. I did have an overactive imagination. Maybe I was making more of this than it actually was. But then I walked into my apartment and saw the stack of magazine covers on my coffee table. Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Marie Claire, my face on every single one. I picked up the latest issue of Vogue. There I was on the cover, and the headline read, Jessica Martinez, the face of the new generation. The article inside called me one of the most promising new talents in the industry and a force to be reckoned with. I sat on my sofa, surrounded by evidence of my success, and tried to understand how my family could look at all of this and see delusion. Unless they weren't looking, unless they were so invested in the narrative of who I was supposed to be, the disappointing older daughter, the dreamer who never quite made it, that they couldn't see who I actually was. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider that maybe, just maybe, the problem wasn't me. But even thinking that felt like betrayal. Good daughters don't blame their families. Good daughters are grateful for any attention at all, even if that attention comes in the form of concern about their mental health. 3 months later, everything changed. I was scheduled to shoot a commercial for Lux's new fragrance line, another massive contract, another milestone in what was becoming a fairy tale career. The shoot was set for a Thursday morning in downtown Los Angeles. I decided to surprise my family with the news. Not ask for their approval, not hope for their acknowledgement, just share my joy the way normal families shared things. I called Amanda Wednesday night. "Hey, it's me. I have some exciting news." "Oh?" Her voice was distracted. I could hear typing in the background. "I just booked another major campaign. This one's even bigger than the first. We're shooting the commercial tomorrow, and then it'll air during the Super Bowl. Can you believe it?" The typing stopped. "The Super Bowl?" "Yeah. My agent says it's going to reach over 100 million viewers. I'm so excited I can barely sleep." There was a long pause. That's great, Jess. Really great." Something in her voice made me pause. "Are you okay? You sound weird." "No, I'm fine, just tired. Work's been crazy." "Well, I wanted to share the news with someone. I'm just so happy, and I thought, actually, Jess, can I call you back? Tyler's coming over, and I need to get ready." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, feeling that familiar sting of dismissal. Even when I tried to share genuine excitement, I was still an interruption, still less important than whatever else was happening in their lives. But I pushed the feeling away. Tomorrow would be amazing. The commercial would be incredible. And maybe, finally, my family would understand. I went to bed that night filled with anticipation, planning what I'd wear, thinking about how I'd tell the story afterward. Finally, I'd have something so undeniably successful that even they couldn't diminish it. I had no idea that in less than 24 hours my life would shatter completely. The next morning dawned bright and clear. I woke up early, too excited to sleep, and spent extra time getting ready. The commercial shoot was scheduled for 9 a.m., and I wanted to arrive early to meet with the director and go over the storyboard one more time. I put on my favorite jeans and a simple white t-shirt, they'd have wardrobe and makeup on set, and grabbed the keys to my new BMW, another symbol of my success that my family had dismissed as showing off. I was humming as I walked to the elevator of my downtown apartment building. The sun was streaming through the lobby windows, and Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman from 4B, waved at me from the mailboxes. "Good morning, Jessica. Off to another photo shoot?" "Commercial shoot today," I said proudly. "It's going to air during the Super Bowl." Her face lit up. "How wonderful. We're all so proud of you, dear." Mrs. Chen, practically a stranger, showed more genuine pride in my accomplishments than my own family ever had. I drove through the morning traffic, windows down, feeling like I was living in a dream. 6 months ago, I'd been working 3 part-time jobs and living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I was driving to film a Super Bowl commercial that would pay me more than I'd made in the previous 5 years combined. I pulled up to a red light and called Amanda again, wanting to share my excitement one more time. "Hello?" She sounded like she'd just woken up. "It's me. I'm on my way to the shoot. I had to call someone. I'm just so excited." "Jess, it's like 7:30 in the morning." I know, but I couldn't help it. This is literally the biggest day of my career. My face is going to be on TV during the Super Bowl. Can you even imagine?" Another pause. Then, "That's nice, Jess, really. But could you maybe call me later? I have a big presentation today and I need to get ready." "Of course, I'm sorry, "We'll talk later, okay? Good luck with your thing." Your thing. A Super Bowl commercial was your thing. The light turned green and I put my phone down, trying not to let her dismissal dampen my mood. Today was too important, too magical for family drama. I arrived at the studio building and took the elevator up to the 15th floor. The reception area was bustling with activity. Crew members carrying equipment, assistants rushing around with clipboards, the energy that always surrounded big productions. Jessica! The assistant director rushed over to greet me. We're so excited you're here. Marcus wants to run through the concept with you before we start setting up. Marcus Chen, no relation to Mrs. Chen, was one of the most sought-after commercial directors in the industry. The fact that he wanted to work with me personally was another sign of how far I'd come. We spent an hour going over the storyboard, discussing the artistic vision, planning shot sequences. It was creative collaboration at the highest level, and I felt completely in my element. "This is going to be beautiful," Marcus said as we wrapped up our meeting. "Jessica, you have such a natural presence. The camera loves you." At 10 a.m., I was in hair and makeup, getting transformed into the vision for the commercial. The makeup artist was a woman named Sophia, who'd worked with everyone from Madonna to Angelina Jolie. "You have incredible bone structure," she said as she worked. "And your skin is flawless. You're going to be huge, I can tell." By noon, we were shooting. The concept was simple but elegant. Me walking through different environments, each transition representing a different aspect of the fragrance. City street to garden to beach to penthouse apartment. The tagline was, "Every moment is yours. Every moment is yours." It felt prophetic. The shoot went perfectly. Marcus kept saying, "Gorgeous, perfect, exactly what we wanted." The crew was professional and enthusiastic. I felt confident, beautiful, completely in control. We wrapped at 6 p.m. and I was buzzing with excitement. The footage was incredible. I could tell just from watching the playback on Marcus's monitor. This commercial was going to be stunning. I drove home feeling like I was floating. This was it. This was the moment that would finally prove to my family that I wasn't delusional, wasn't exaggerating, wasn't living in fantasyland. A Super Bowl commercial. 100 million viewers. No one could dismiss that. I decided to drive straight to my parents' house and share the news in person. I wanted to see their faces when I told them. I wanted to watch them realize that their daughter was actually exactly as successful as she'd been telling them. The drive to Maple Grove took 45 minutes in evening traffic, but I didn't mind. I used the time to practice what I'd say, to imagine their reactions. Maybe Dad would finally say he was proud of me. Maybe Mom would stop worrying about my realistic expectations. Maybe Amanda would admit that I wasn't just making things up. I pulled into the driveway at 7:30 p.m. The house looked warm and inviting, light spilling from every window. I could see movement in the kitchen. Someone was making dinner. I practically skipped to the front door, my heart pounding with excitement. I was about to give my family the best news they'd ever heard. I pushed open the front door without knocking. I'd lived here for 22 years, after all. "I'm home, and do I have incredible news for—" The words died in my throat. Amanda was standing at the top of the staircase, her face flushed with rage. Mom and Dad were in the living room, both of them looking up at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. "There she is," Amanda said, her voice dripping with venom. "Miss Super Bowl commercial." Something was very, very wrong. "Amanda? Did you really think we wouldn't find out?" She started down the stairs, her movements sharp and angry. "Did you think we were too stupid to figure out that you've been lying to us for months?" "Lying? What are you talking about?" She reached the bottom of the stairs and stood directly in front of me, her face twisted with fury I'd never seen before. "I called the Luxe Cosmetics corporate office today, Jessica. I told them I was a journalist doing a story about their latest campaign. Want to guess what they told me?" My blood turned to ice. "Amanda, what did you do?" "They told me that while they did recently hire a model named Jessica Martinez, the campaign budget was nowhere near what you claimed. They told me the whole campaign cost them about $200,000 total, which means you, dear sister, were paid a tiny fraction of that." The room was spinning. I could barely process what she was saying. "You've been lying to us for months," she continued, her voice getting louder with each word, "making up stories about $10 million contracts, pretending to be this huge supermodel, when really you're just another working model doing a small cosmetics campaign." I wasn't lying." "Stop!" Amanda screamed, and I flinched. "Just stop with the lies. I'm so sick of watching you make up these elaborate fantasies to make yourself feel important." Amanda, please, if you'd just let me explain. Explain what? How you've been manipulating our family for months? How you've been pretending to be successful when really you're just as much of a failure as always? The words hit me like physical blows, but it was the look on my parents' faces that really shattered me. Disappointment, embarrassment, pity. They believed her. They believed Amanda's version of the story without even asking for mine. "Jessica," Mom said quietly, "we need to talk." But I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. The room was closing in around me, and all I could hear was Amanda's voice. "Just as much of a failure as always." "I trusted you," Dad said, and his voice was heavy with disappointment. "We all did, and you've been lying to our faces for months." "I haven't been lying," I managed to whisper. "Then explain this." Amanda pulled out her phone and showed me something on the screen. It looked like an email or a web page. "This is from the modeling agency's website, your profile. It lists your recent work, and the highest paying job on there is $15,000. I stared at the screen, confused. That wasn't my profile. Or rather, it was an old profile that hadn't been updated since before the Lux campaign. But looking at it through Amanda's interpretation, I could see how it might seem like I'd been lying. "Amanda, that profile is outdated. The agency hasn't—" "Oh my God, you're still lying!" She was screaming now. "Even when caught red-handed, you can't tell the truth." "I am telling the truth." "No, you're not." She was so angry she was shaking. "You're pathetic, Jessica. You're so desperate to be special, to be important, that you make up these ridiculous stories. $10 million? A Super Bowl commercial? Do you even hear yourself?" A Super Bowl commercial. I just filmed a Super Bowl commercial 8 hours ago. But standing in that living room, watching my family look at me with disgust and disappointment, I started to doubt my own memories. Had I imagined it? Had I made it up? Was I actually delusional? "You've embarrassed this entire family," Amanda continued. "Do you know I told Tyler about your supposed success? Do you know I bragged to my friends about my supermodel sister? And now I find out it was all lies." "Amanda, please." She stepped closer, her face inches from mine. "You know what the worst part is? We actually started to believe you. For a minute there, we thought maybe you'd actually made something of yourself. But you're still the same pathetic attention seeker you've always been. The same pathetic attention seeker you've always been." The words echoed in my head as I stood there, surrounded by my family's disappointment and disgust. I looked at Mom and Dad, silently begging them to defend me, to ask for my side of the story, to show me even a shred of support. Instead, Dad shook his head sadly. "I think you should leave, Jessica. We need some time to process this." "Leave." They were kicking me out. "Dad, please, if you'll just let me show you the contracts." "We don't want to see any more fake documents," Amanda snapped. "We've heard enough lies." Fake documents. She thought the contracts were fake. I stumbled toward the door, my vision blurry with tears. This couldn't be happening. This morning I'd been on top of the world, filming a commercial that would air during the Super Bowl. Tonight I was being thrown out of my family home like a criminal. "Jessica," Mom called after me as I reached the door. "We love you, but you need to get help. This fantasy world you're living in, it's not healthy." I turned to look at her one last time. Patricia Martinez, the woman who'd raised me, who was supposed to know me better than anyone. She was looking at me like I was a stranger, like I was someone to be pitied. "I'm not living in a fantasy world," I said quietly. "Then prove it," Amanda said from behind her. "Show us one piece of real evidence that any of what you've told us is true." I could have shown them my bank statements. I could have called my agent, my manager, Marcus Chen. I could have shown them the commercial footage on my phone. But standing there, looking at their faces full of disbelief and contempt, I realized it wouldn't matter. They'd already decided who I was. The delusional older daughter, the attention-seeking failure, the pathetic dreamer who made up elaborate lies to feel important. No amount of evidence would change their minds, because they didn't want their minds changed. They were comfortable with their version of me. They needed me to be the failure so Amanda could be the success. I walked out of that house and sat in my car for 20 minutes, crying harder than I had since I was a child. Then I drove back to my apartment in the city, my mind reeling with confusion and pain. Had I made it all up? Was I actually delusional? The evidence was all there. The contracts, the bank statements, the footage from today's shoot. But my family's certainty was shaking my grip on reality. When I got home, I called my agent, Sarah. "Jessica, how did the shoot go today?" Marcus texted me and said it was incredible. "Sarah," I said, my voice shaking, "can you tell me exactly what the Luxe Cosmetics contract was worth?" "What? Jessica, are you okay? You sound upset. Please, just tell me the number." The initial contract was for $12 million over 2 years, with options for extensions. "Jessica, what's going on?" $12 million. Not $10 million. $12 million. I'd actually undersold my own success. "And the commercial we shot today? That's a separate contract for $8 million. "Jessica, you're scaring me. What happened?" I told her everything. About Amanda's phone call to Lux, about the confrontation, about being thrown out of my family home. When I finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Jessica," she said finally, "your sister called a cosmetics company and claimed to be a journalist?" "Yes." "And they gave her information about confidential client contracts." I paused. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that's not how it works. Companies don't give financial details about their talent to random people who call claiming to be journalists. Either she's lying about making that call, or whoever she spoke to gave her completely false information." The room started spinning again, but this time for a different reason. "What?" "Jessica, I think your sister made up that story about calling Lux. I think she fabricated the whole thing." "But why? Why would Amanda make up lies about me making up lies?" The answer came to me slowly, like a terrible dawn breaking, because she couldn't stand seeing me succeed. Because for 25 years, she'd been the golden child, the success story, the one everyone was proud of. And suddenly, I was threatening that narrative. She hadn't called Luxe Cosmetics. She'd invented the whole story to sabotage my moment of triumph, and my parents had believed her without question. I hung up the phone and sat in my apartment, surrounded by magazine covers and commercial scripts and bank statements that proved my success beyond any doubt. And I realized that none of it mattered. My family didn't want me to succeed. They needed me to fail. The realization should have been devastating. Instead, it was clarifying. For the first time in my life, I understood exactly where I stood with my family, and for the first time in my life, I stopped caring what they thought. But I wasn't ready for what would happen next. 3 days later, I was driving to a photo shoot when my phone rang. It was Mom. "Jessica, sweetheart, we need to talk." "About what?" "About what happened the other night. Amanda told us she might have made a mistake." "Might have made a mistake. Not, Amanda lied and we owe you an apology. Just might have made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" "Well, she's been under a lot of stress with the engagement planning, and she thinks maybe she misunderstood what the person at the cosmetics company told her." Misunderstood. Amanda had stood in our living room and called me a pathetic liar, and now it was a misunderstanding. "So, you believe me now?" "We want to talk about it. Could you come over for dinner tonight?" "Amanda wants to apologize." I almost said yes. 25 years of conditioning told me to say yes, to forgive, to pretend it hadn't happened. Good daughters don't hold grudges. Good daughters are grateful for any attention at all, even if it comes in the form of belated, half-hearted apologies. But something had shifted in me during those 3 days of silence. Something fundamental. "No," I said. "No? I won't be coming to dinner." "Jessica, we're trying to fix this. We're trying to—" "You threw me out of the house, Mom. You called me delusional. You believed Amanda's lies without even asking for my side of the story. And now you want to have a nice family dinner and pretend it never happened? We made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to believe I was lying because it was easier than believing I was successful. Because me being successful doesn't fit the story you've told yourselves about who I am." There was a long silence. "Jessica, you're our daughter. We love you." "Do you?" Because it doesn't feel like love. It feels like you need me to be a failure so Amanda can be special. That's not... I have to go, Mom. I'm late for work. I hung up and sat in my car for a moment, shaking. I'd never spoken to my mother like that. I'd never refused a family dinner. I'd never prioritized my own feelings over their comfort. It felt terrifying. It also felt like freedom. That night, Amanda called. "Jess, it's me. I think we need to talk." "Do we?" "Look, I may have overreacted the other night. I was stressed about the wedding planning, and when I thought you were lying about your career, it just triggered something in me." "Thought I was lying." "Not when I made up lies about you. When I thought you were lying." "What exactly did you think I was lying about, Amanda?" "You know, the money stuff. The $10 million thing. It just seemed so big." "It is big. That's the point. I achieved something big." "Right, but, I mean, even if it's true, you don't have to make such a big deal about it. It's not like you're the first person to book a modeling job. Make such a big deal about it. I'd achieved the biggest success of my life, and I wasn't supposed to make a big deal about it." "Amanda, why did you tell Mom and Dad that you called Lux Cosmetics?" A pause. "What do you mean?" "Did you actually call them?" Another pause, longer this time. I did some research online." "That's not what you said. You said you called their corporate office." "Well, I might have. I was upset, Jess. I wasn't thinking clearly." She'd lied. She'd invented the entire story about calling Lux, and when confronted, she was lying again. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you make that up?" "I didn't make anything up. I was just trying to protect our family from..." "From what? From me being successful?" "From you lying about being successful." "But I wasn't lying." "How am I supposed to know that? You've always been dramatic, always exaggerated things. Give me one example." "What?" "Give me one specific example of me lying or exaggerating about something important." Silence. "Amanda? Look, this isn't about specific examples. It's about patterns. It's about how you always need to be the center of attention, always need to have the biggest news, the most exciting story. Or maybe it's about how you can't stand the idea of me actually being successful." "That's ridiculous." "Is it? Because for 25 years, you've been the golden child, everyone's favorite, and now suddenly I'm the one with the career, the money, the success, and you can't handle it. You're being paranoid." "Am I? Because 3 days ago you stood in our living room and called me a pathetic liar based on a phone call you never made. And now you're trying to gaslight me into thinking it was just a misunderstanding." "I'm not gaslighting you." "Yes, you are, and I'm done." "Done with what?" "Done with this family. Done with being your scapegoat. Done with pretending that the way you treat me is normal or acceptable." "Jessica, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." I hung up. For the next week, my phone rang constantly. Mom, Dad, Amanda, even some cousins and aunts who'd apparently been recruited to talk sense into me. The messages all had the same theme. I was overreacting. I was being too sensitive. Families fight sometimes. I needed to forgive and move on. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on work. The Super Bowl commercial was set to air in 2 months, and I had 3 more major campaigns in development. My career was exploding in ways I'd never imagined, and for the first time, I was able to enjoy it without the constant need for my family's approval. But the peace didn't last long. 2 weeks after the dinner invitation, I was at home on a Sunday afternoon when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Amanda standing in the hallway, looking perfectly put together in a designer coat and expensive handbag. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't." I started to close the door, but she put her foot in the way. "Jessica, please, 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her in. She looked around my apartment, taking in the magazine covers on the coffee table, the scripts stacked on my desk, the fresh flowers I'd bought myself that morning. "This is nice," she said, very successful looking. "What do you want, Amanda?" She sat down on my sofa without being invited. "I want to clear the air. This fight has gone on long enough." "There's no fight. There's just you lying about me and our parents believing you. Okay, maybe I made some mistakes. You lied. Let's call it what it was. Fine, I lied. But I was worried about you, Jess. You have to understand that. Worried about me succeeding? Worried about you getting hurt. The entertainment industry is brutal. People make promises they don't keep. I thought maybe someone was taking advantage of you, making you think you were more successful than you actually were. It was a good lie, almost believable. If I hadn't known better, I might have bought it. Amanda, my bank statements don't lie. My contracts don't lie. The commercial I filmed doesn't lie. I know that now. And I'm sorry, I really am. Are you? Because you don't sound sorry. You sound like you're trying to manage me. She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller. Do you know what it's like being your sister? What? Do you know what it's like growing up as Amanda Martinez, Jessica's little sister? I stared at her. What are you talking about? You're the golden child. You're everyone's favorite. No, I'm the normal one. I'm the safe choice. I'm the one Mom and Dad can count on not to embarrass them. That's not... You don't remember, do you? When we were kids, before your teenage rebellion phase, you were the star. You were the one in school plays, the one winning art contests, the one everyone noticed. I was just your little sister, tagging along, trying to keep up. I had no idea what she was talking about. Amanda... And then you hit puberty and started acting out, and suddenly I became the good one by default. But I always knew it was temporary. I always knew that someday you'd get your act together and go back to being the special one, the talented one, the one everyone remembers. She was crying now, which shocked me. Amanda never cried. I've spent my whole adult life trying to be successful enough that when you finally figured things out, I wouldn't disappear completely. And then you signed that contract, and I realized it was happening. You were going to be famous, and I was going to go back to being nobody. I sat down across from her, trying to process what she was saying. So you sabotaged me. I panicked. I thought if I could prove you were exaggerating, maybe things could stay the way they were a little longer. You destroyed my relationship with our parents because you were jealous. I was scared. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, I spoke. Amanda, there's room for both of us to be successful. My career doesn't diminish yours. Doesn't it? When you're on magazine covers and I'm processing insurance claims? You just got promoted. You're engaged to a great guy. You have a good life. A normal life. A boring life. Nothing compared to what you're doing. So what happens now? She wiped her eyes and looked at me. I don't know. I want to fix things with our parents. They feel terrible about what happened. Do they? Or are they just embarrassed that they might have been wrong? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Because if they're just embarrassed, they'll do it again the next time you decide you don't like something about my life. That won't happen again. How do I know that? She didn't have an answer. After she left, I sat in my apartment thinking about everything she'd said. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to forgive, wanted to go back to the way things were. But I couldn't forget the look on their faces that night, the absolute certainty that I was lying. The willingness to believe the worst about me without asking a single question. That wasn't love. That was convenience. A month later, the Super Bowl commercial aired. 115 million people watched it. My phone exploded with congratulations from friends, colleagues, and people I hadn't heard from in years. My family didn't call. The day after the Super Bowl, I got a text from Mom. Saw the commercial. Very nice. We should talk soon. Very nice. A Super Bowl commercial was very nice. I didn't respond. 2 days later, Dad called and left a voicemail. Hi, sweetheart, it's Dad. That commercial was something else. We're all very proud. Give us a call when you get a chance. Very proud. Now they were very proud, after seeing proof that even they couldn't dismiss. I didn't call back. A week later, Amanda showed up at my door again. Jess, come on. They know they messed up. We all do. But this silent treatment isn't solving anything. I'm not giving them the silent treatment. I'm protecting myself. From what? From you. From all of you. From the next time you decide I'm getting too big for my britches and need to be taken down a peg. That's not going to happen again. How do I know that? Because we've learned our lesson. Have you? Or have you just learned to be more careful about how you sabotage me? She didn't have an answer to that either. The commercial's success opened doors I hadn't even known existed. Movie offers, endorsement deals, magazine covers, runway opportunities. My agent said I was becoming one of the most sought-after models in the industry, but the success felt hollow. I'd spent 25 years dreaming of the moment when my family would finally be proud of me, and when that moment came, it was too late. The damage was done. I threw myself into work, traveling constantly, building my career, creating the life I'd always wanted. But late at night, in hotel rooms around the world, I felt the absence of family like a physical ache. I missed them. Despite everything, I missed them. But I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because I'd learned something important during those months of silence. I didn't need their approval to be successful. I didn't need their validation to be worthy. I didn't need their love to be complete. For the first time in my life, I was enough all by myself. 3 months after the Super Bowl commercial, I was in Milan for Fashion Week when my phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me answer. Jessica, it's me. Amanda. She sounded different, shaky. What's wrong? I need to tell you something. About that night. About what I said. Amanda? There's more. There's something I didn't tell you. I sat down on the edge of my hotel bed. What? The reason I was so angry that night. It wasn't just jealousy. It was because I knew. Knew what? I knew you were telling the truth. About the contract, about everything. I looked it up online after you first told us. I saw the campaign. I saw the coverage in the industry magazines. I knew it was all real. The room started spinning. Then, why? Because I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand watching you become everything I'd never be. So I decided to destroy it. Amanda. I made up the story about calling Lux. I knew it would work because Mom and Dad wanted to believe it. They've always been more comfortable with you as the failure than you as the success. Why are you telling me this now? Because Tyler broke up with me. Of course. She was only confessing because her perfect life had fallen apart. He said I was too manipulative, too cruel to my family. He said he couldn't imagine what I'd do to him if we got married. I didn't know what to say. I destroyed your relationship with our parents because I was jealous, and now I've destroyed my own life. I needed you to know the truth. After she hung up, I sat in that Milan hotel room and cried. Not for Amanda, not for her broken engagement, but for all the time we'd lost, all the celebrations that had been ruined, all the support I'd needed and never received. But mostly, I cried from relief. Because now I knew for certain that I hadn't been wrong, hadn't been delusional, hadn't been making things up. My family had chosen to believe lies about me because the lies were more comfortable than the truth. And now I knew exactly what I had to do. When I got back to Los Angeles, I called a lawyer. Not because I wanted to sue my family, but because I wanted to protect myself from them. I wanted restraining orders, legal barriers, official documentation of what they'd done to me. I was done being the family scapegoat, done being the convenient target for their jealousy and insecurity, done pretending that their behavior was normal or acceptable. I was going to build a new life, with people who celebrated my success instead of sabotaging it, people who believed in me instead of tearing me down, people who loved me for who I was, not who they needed me to be. But first, I was going to make sure my family could never hurt me again. The lawyer's name was Sarah Chen. Apparently, I couldn't escape the Chens, and she specialized in family law. When I told her my story, she listened without judgment, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. Jessica, she said when I finished, what you've described is a pattern of emotional abuse and defamation. You have grounds for legal action. I don't want to sue them. I just want them to leave me alone. We can do that. Restraining orders, cease and desist letters, whatever you need. But as I sat in her office, looking out at the Los Angeles skyline, I realized there was something else I needed to do first. I needed to confront them one more time. Not to reconcile, not to forgive, but to tell them exactly what they'd done to me and what the consequences would be. I owed myself that much. The confrontation would happen, but not the way I planned. Because 3 weeks later, Amanda made one final, desperate attempt to destroy me, and this time she went too far. It happened on a Tuesday morning in April. I was in my apartment reviewing scripts for an upcoming Dior campaign when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, alerts flooding in faster than I could process them. The first message I saw was from my agent, Sarah. "Jessica, call me now. We have a problem." My blood turned cold. In this industry, "we have a problem" usually meant career-ending scandal. I called her immediately. "Sarah, what's going on?" "Jessica, someone leaked fake information about you to TMZ. They're running a story claiming you lied about your contract amounts, that you're not actually signed with Lux, that the whole thing was an elaborate social media hoax." The room started spinning. "What?" "It gets worse. They have quotes from someone claiming to be a close family source, saying you've always been a pathological liar with delusions of grandeur. The story went viral 20 minutes ago." I hung up and immediately Googled my name. The TMZ headline made me physically sick. "Fake it till you make it. Model Jessica Martinez's $1 million lies exposed by family." The article was devastating. It claimed I'd fabricated my entire career, that the Lux campaigns were small local jobs I'd inflated into global campaigns, that I'd been lying to everyone, including my own family, for months. But the worst part was the quotes from the anonymous family source. Jessica has always lived in a fantasy world. She's desperately wanted to be famous since childhood, and when small modeling jobs weren't enough, she started making up elaborate stories. We've been worried about her mental health for months. She actually believes her own lies now. Only one person could have given them that information. Only one person knew exactly which details would hurt me most. Amanda. My phone rang. It was Marcus Chen, the director who'd filmed my Super Bowl commercial. "Jessica, I just saw the TMZ story. This is obviously garbage, but we need to do damage control immediately. Can you get to my office?" "Marcus, Jessica, I've worked with you. I know who you are and what you've accomplished, but perception is reality in this business. We need to move fast." The next few hours were a nightmare. My phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, gossip bloggers, industry people wanting statements. My Instagram comments were flooded with people calling me a fraud, a liar, a wannabe who'd finally been exposed. But the worst part was watching opportunities disappear in real time. Sarah called with updates every hour. "Dior is reconsidering. The magazine cover is on hold. 3 casting directors just called to cancel meetings." By evening, I was hiding in my apartment with the curtains drawn, watching my career implode on social media. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd achieved, being torn apart by strangers who believed Amanda's lies. That's when my phone rang with a call that changed everything. "Ms. Martinez? This is Jennifer Walsh from Walsh & Associates. I represent celebrities in defamation cases." "I didn't call any lawyers." "No, but Sarah Chen at your talent agency did. She's concerned about the false statements being made about you in the media." I didn't correct her about Sarah Chen being my lawyer, not my agent. Right now, I needed all the help I could get. "Ms. Martinez, I've reviewed the TMZ article and I believe we have grounds for a significant defamation lawsuit. The statements are provably false and they're causing measurable damage to your career." "But the source is anonymous?" "We have ways of finding anonymous sources, and more importantly, we can subpoena phone records, emails, financial documents, everything we need to prove your success is real and their claims are fabricated." For the first time all day, I felt like I could breathe. "What would this involve?" "We'd file suit against TMZ and John Doe for the source. During discovery, we'd uncover who fed them the lies. And Ms. Martinez? Based on the damages I'm already seeing to your career, we could be looking at a very significant settlement." "How significant?" "Mid-8 figures, possibly more. $50 million. Maybe more. Enough to destroy whoever had done this to me." "I want to do it." "Excellent. I'll have papers drawn up by tomorrow morning." After she hung up, I sat in my dark apartment and felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. Not just hope for clearing my name, but hope for justice. Real, legal, devastating justice. But first, I needed to know for certain who had betrayed me. I called Amanda. "Jess? Oh my God, I just saw the news. This is terrible. Who would do something like this?" She was good. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed the concern in her voice. "Amanda, the article quotes a family source. Who else would know those specific details about my childhood?" "I have no idea. Maybe someone overheard us talking at a restaurant. Or maybe they just made it up. You know how these gossip sites are." "Right, because TMZ definitely makes up detailed quotes about childhood behavioral patterns." "Jess, you sound like you think I did this." "Did you?" A pause, just long enough to confirm what I already knew. "Jessica Marie Martinez, how could you even ask me that? I'm your sister." "You're my sister who lied to our parents about my career to sabotage my success. You're my sister who admitted to destroying my life out of jealousy. So yes, Amanda, I'm asking if you did this." "I would never." "Cut the shit, Amanda. I know it was you." Silence. "I know you called TMZ. I know you fed them those quotes. And I know you're about to find out what happens when you mess with someone who actually has the resources to fight back." "Jess, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared, because tomorrow morning, I'm filing a defamation lawsuit for $50 million, and during discovery, we're going to subpoena your phone records, your email, your bank statements. We're going to find every piece of evidence that proves you did this." "You can't sue your own sister." "Watch me." I hung up and immediately called Jennifer Walsh back. "Ms. Walsh? I want to add another defendant to the lawsuit. I know who the anonymous source is." The next morning, Amanda called me 17 times. I ignored every call. Instead, I was at Jennifer Walsh's office, reviewing the most beautiful legal documents I'd ever seen. Jessica Martinez versus TMZ, John Doe, and Amanda Martinez. Claims: defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with business relations. Damages sought: $50 million plus punitive damages. "When do we file?" "This afternoon." "And Jessica? I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen a stronger case." By 3 p.m., the lawsuit was filed and served. Amanda would be getting papers within hours. TMZ would have them by morning. The story would break by afternoon. I spent that evening doing something I hadn't done in months. I called friends, real friends, people in the industry who knew me, who'd worked with me, who could verify everything in my career. Marcus Chen was first. "Jessica, I'm testifying. That commercial shoot is documented 6 ways to Sunday. Anyone who claims you're not successful is either lying or delusional." My agent Sarah was next. "I have contracts, bank transfers, correspondence with every major brand you've worked with. We're going to bury them." One by one, my support system materialized. Photographers, directors, brand executives, fellow models, an entire industry standing behind me. But the most important call came from someone unexpected. "Jessica, this is Patricia Martinez." My mother. I almost hung up. "Mom." "I just got served with legal papers. They say Amanda is being sued for $50 million. "That's correct." "Jessica, surely this is some kind of mistake." "The only mistake was trusting my family not to destroy me out of jealousy. Amanda would never." Amanda admitted to me that she lied about calling Lux Cosmetics. "She told me she sabotaged my relationship with you and Dad because she couldn't stand seeing me succeed. And now she's taken it one step further by trying to destroy my entire career." Silence. "Mom, for 25 years, you chose to believe the worst about me. You chose to dismiss my achievements, minimize my success, and treat me like a delusional attention seeker. And when I finally achieved something undeniable, you still chose to believe Amanda's lies. We were just trying to protect you." "No, you were trying to protect Amanda. You were trying to keep me in the role of family failure so she could stay the golden child." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Because when I told you about the biggest contract of my life, your response was to worry about my mental health. When I achieved success beyond anything this family had ever seen, your response was to have me evaluated for delusions. We love you. You love the idea of me. The version of me that stays small, stays grateful, stays in my place. You don't love the real me because you've never tried to know the real me. Jessica, please. Amanda is your sister. You can't destroy her over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. She was calling career sabotage a misunderstanding. Mom, Amanda didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She chose to call TMZ. She chose to give them information designed to destroy me. She chose to risk my entire career because she couldn't handle her own insecurity. But $50 million is what my career is worth. It's what she tried to take from me, and it's what she's going to pay for trying. I hung up. Within hours, my phone was ringing again. Dad this time. Jessica, we need to talk. Do we? Your sister is hysterical. She's talking about having to declare bankruptcy, losing her house. This lawsuit will ruin her life. Good. Jessica! Dad, she tried to ruin my life. Turnabout is fair play. She made a mistake. She made a choice. A calculated, deliberate choice to destroy my reputation and my career. She succeeded. I've already lost 3 major contracts because of her lies. So now she gets to face the consequences. She's family. So am I. But that didn't stop any of you from treating me like garbage for 25 years. We never treated you like garbage. You threw me out of the house for achieving success. You called me delusional for signing the biggest contract of my life. You believed Amanda's lies without asking for my side of the story. If that's not treating someone like garbage, I don't know what is. We made mistakes. You made choices. Just like Amanda made choices. And just like I'm making choices now. What do you want from us? The question caught me off guard. What did I want? For 25 years, I'd wanted their approval, their pride, their love. I'd wanted to be seen, to be valued, to be celebrated the way Amanda was celebrated. But sitting there, with a $50 million lawsuit filed and an entire industry rallying behind me, I realized I didn't want those things anymore. I wanted justice. I want you to leave me alone, I said finally. I want you to stop calling, stop trying to manipulate me into dropping the lawsuit. Stop pretending that 25 years of emotional abuse can be fixed with a phone call. Emotional abuse? Jessica, you're being dramatic. Am I? Because I have a team of psychologists who disagree. My lawyer hired them to document the psychological damage for the lawsuit. They have a term for what you did to me, scapegoating. They have another term for what Amanda did, sibling abuse. Silence. The lawsuit moves forward, Dad. Amanda pays the price for what she did, and this family leaves me alone to live my life in peace. And if we don't? Then you'll find out what happens when you mess with someone who has the resources to fight back. I hung up and turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up to my doorman calling. Ms. Martinez, there are people here to see you. They say they're from the court. My heart sank. Had Amanda filed some kind of countersuit? Send them up. 2 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Amanda standing in my hallway, flanked by 2 men in suits. Jessica, please, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Speak to my lawyer. I brought my lawyer. This is Robert Kim from Kim and Associates, and this is Detective Morrison from LAPD. My blood turned to ice. LAPD? Detective Morrison stepped forward. Ms. Martinez, we're investigating allegations of harassment and extortion. Excuse me? Your sister claims you've been threatening her family, demanding money, using legal intimidation to coerce her into paying you for fabricated damages. I stared at Amanda in disbelief. Even now, even after everything, she was still lying. Detective, I filed a legitimate defamation lawsuit after my sister fed false information to TMZ that damaged my career. There's been no harassment, no threats, no extortion. She says you've been calling her, threatening to destroy her life if she doesn't pay you $50 million. I haven't spoken to her in 3 days. And the $50 million is what her lies cost my career, as documented by my attorney and my agency. Amanda stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. She was good at this, She'd always been good at playing the victim. "Jess, please, I made a mistake. I was jealous and I did something stupid. But you're trying to destroy my entire life over it. I don't have $50 million. Nobody in our family does. This lawsuit will bankrupt me, force me to lose my house, ruin my credit forever. You should have thought of that before you tried to destroy my career. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You called TMZ, Amanda. You gave them detailed quotes designed to make me look like a delusional liar. You knew exactly what would happen to my career, and you did it anyway. I was angry. You were getting all this success, and I was stuck in the same boring job, and I snapped. So you decided to destroy me. I made a mistake. You made a choice, and now you get to live with the consequences." Detective Morrison looked between us. "Ms. Martinez, do you have documentation for the damages you're claiming? Every contract, every canceled deal, every lost opportunity. My attorney has it all. And the harassment allegations? My phone records will show I haven't contacted Ms. Amanda Martinez in 3 days. The only communication has been through attorneys." He made notes, then looked at Amanda. "Ma'am, filing a false police report is a felony." Amanda's face went white. I wasn't filing a false report. I was scared." "Of a legitimate lawsuit you brought on yourself by committing defamation," I interrupted. "Detective, my sister has a history of lying to manipulate situations. She lied to our parents about my career, she lied to TMZ about my success, and now she's lying to you about harassment." "That's enough," Amanda's lawyer said. "Detective, we'd like to withdraw the complaint." "Too late for that," Detective Morrison replied. "I still need to investigate the claims that were made." After they left, I sat in my apartment and realized something had shifted. For months, I'd been playing defense, defending my success, defending my sanity, defending my right to exist without constant criticism. But now I was playing offense, and it felt incredible. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal preparation. Jennifer Walsh's team was building an airtight case, documenting every aspect of my career, every contract Amanda's lies had cost me, every dollar of damage her defamation had caused. "Jessica, we found something interesting in the discovery process," Jennifer told me during one of our meetings. "What?" "Amanda's phone records show she contacted TMZ 6 different times over 2 weeks before the story broke. This wasn't a moment of anger. This was a calculated campaign to destroy you. 6 times. She'd called them 6 different times, feeding them information, building the story, making sure it would be as damaging as possible. There's more. We found emails between Amanda and someone at TMZ discussing payment for the story." "Payment?" "TMZ paid her $3,000 for the exclusive family source quotes." She'd sold me out, literally. For $3,000, my sister had tried to destroy everything I'd worked for my entire life. "Jennifer, I want to add fraud to the lawsuit. She profited from lying about me." "Already done. We're also adding conspiracy, since the TMZ emails show they knew some of the information was likely false but ran with it anyway." But the biggest breakthrough came 2 weeks later. "Jessica, you need to see this." Jennifer spread documents across her conference table. Amanda's financial records. I looked at the papers, confused. What am I looking at? "Your sister has been living beyond her means for months. Credit card debt, car payments she can't afford, a mortgage that's 3 months behind. She needed money desperately. So selling you out to TMZ wasn't just about jealousy, it was about cash. She needed that $3,000. But more importantly, she was hoping the story would damage your career enough that you'd have to come home, tail between your legs, and bail the family out financially." "What?" "Think about it. You've been successful for months, but you haven't been sharing your wealth with your family. Amanda was drowning in debt. Your parents are probably struggling with retirement, and you're living in a luxury apartment driving a BMW. The pieces clicked into place. She thought if she destroyed my career, I'd be forced to come home and use my savings to help the family." "Exactly. She was betting that family guilt would make you choose them over your own financial security. Even after destroying you, she expected you to save her." I sat back in my chair, stunned. The depths of Amanda's manipulation were breathtaking. "Jennifer, I want to destroy her completely." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want her to lose everything. The house, the car, the credit, the job. I want her to understand exactly what she tried to do to me." "Jessica, be careful. Revenge can consume you." "This isn't revenge. This is justice. She tried to steal my entire life. Now she gets to find out what that feels like." "What did you have in mind?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Let's increase the damages. 50 million isn't enough. I want 100 million. "On what grounds?" "Intentional destruction of earning potential, pain and suffering, punitive damages for calculated malice. You said yourself this was a deliberate campaign over 2 weeks. 100 million will bankrupt not just Amanda, but potentially your entire family if they've co-signed anything or provided financial support." "Perfect." Jennifer studied my face. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. They want to play games? Let's play games. But this time I have better lawyers." The amended lawsuit was filed 3 days later. $100 million in damages, plus attorney's fees, plus punitive damages to be determined by a jury. The media picked up the story immediately. "Model sues sister for $100 million over career sabotage." "Family feud turns nuclear. Martinez sisters head to court." But the story that really mattered ran in Variety. "Jessica Martinez vindicated. Industry rallies behind defamed model." The article detailed support from every major brand I'd worked with, testimony from photographers and directors, documentation of my actual contracts and earnings. By the time it published, it was clear to everyone that Amanda's TMZ story had been pure fiction. My phone started ringing with new opportunities. Brands that had dropped me wanted back in. New contracts appeared, magazine covers, movie auditions, endorsement deals. But the call that mattered most came from an unexpected source. "Ms. Martinez, this is David Chen, Senior Vice President at Luxe Cosmetics." No relation to Marcus Chen or Mrs. Chen, but still, the Chens were everywhere in my life. "Mr. Chen, how can I help you?" "I wanted to call personally to apologize for what you've been put through. We've been following the lawsuit, and we're appalled that someone used our company name to spread lies about you." "Thank you. More than that, we want to make this right. We're prepared to offer you a new contract, 5 years guaranteed, with options for extensions. $25 million plus bonuses for campaign performance." $25 million, more than I'd ever dreamed of making. "That's incredibly generous, but why?" "Because you handled this situation with grace and professionalism. You didn't attack us publicly when your sister's lies implicated our company. You focused on the truth and let the legal system work. That's the kind of person we want representing our brand." After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and realized something profound. I'd won. Not just the legal case, not just the career vindication, but something more important. I'd won my freedom. For the first time in my life, I didn't need my family's approval. I didn't need their love, their acceptance, their validation. I had built something entirely my own, something they couldn't touch or diminish or take away. And more importantly, I'd learned to fight back. The final confrontation came 6 weeks later in the form of a settlement conference. Jennifer Walsh had arranged it, confident we could get everything we wanted without going to trial. "Jessica, Amanda's lawyer wants to meet. They're ready to settle." "For how much?" "They're offering 10 million. "I want 50. "Their counteroffer will probably be 25. "Then I want 75. Jennifer laughed. "You're getting good at this." The meeting was held in a neutral conference room downtown. Amanda arrived looking like she'd aged 10 years in 2 months. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple black dress that looked like it came from Target. Her hair was flat, her makeup minimal. She looked defeated. Her parents came with her. My parents, though I was having trouble thinking of them that way. Mom looked frail, older than her 55 years. Dad looked angry, but there was something else in his expression. Fear, maybe. "Jessica," Mom said as I walked in. "You look wonderful, sweetheart." Sweetheart. Now I was sweetheart again. "Patricia," I replied, using her first name. The formality wasn't lost on anyone. Amanda's lawyer started the meeting. My client is prepared to offer $15 million in damages, plus a public apology and retraction. $60 million, Jennifer replied without hesitation. Plus attorney's fees, plus a legally binding agreement that the Martinez family will have no contact with Jessica Martinez for the rest of their natural lives. That's excessive. Your client tried to destroy my client's career for $3,000. $60 million is generous. Amanda spoke for the first time. Jess, please. I don't have $60 million. I don't even have $6 million. This will destroy my entire life. Like you tried to destroy mine? I made a mistake. You made 6 phone calls to TMZ over 2 weeks. You planned this, Amanda. You calculated it. You sold me out for cash and hoped I'd be damaged enough to come home and bail you out financially. Her face crumpled. How did you... We have your phone records, your emails, your bank statements. We know about the debt, the mortgage, the financial desperation. We know you thought destroying me would somehow save you. Amanda, Dad said sharply. Is this true? I was going to lose the house. So you decided to destroy your sister's career? I thought if the story came out, Jessica would come home and we could work things out as a family. By work things out, you mean I'd pay your bills, I said. She didn't deny it. Mom spoke up. Jessica, surely we can work something out. Amanda made a terrible mistake, but she's family. So am I, but that didn't stop any of you from treating me like garbage for 25 years. We never treated you like garbage, I laughed, and it wasn't a kind sound. You threw me out of the house for being successful. You called me delusional for achieving my dreams. You believed Amanda's lies without asking for my side of the story. And when she tried to destroy my career, your first instinct was to protect her, not me. We're trying to protect both of you. No, you're trying to protect Amanda from the consequences of her actions, just like you always have. Jennifer interrupted. Let's focus on the settlement. $60 million plus attorney's fees, plus the no-contact agreement. We can't pay $60 million, Amanda's lawyer said. Then she should have thought of that before committing defamation. $20 million, Dad said suddenly. We can probably manage $20 million if we sell everything. Everything. The house I'd grown up in, their retirement savings, Amanda's house, their entire lives liquidated to pay for Amanda's jealousy. $50 million, I said firmly. Not a penny less. Jessica, please, Mom started. Patricia, for 25 years, you made me feel like I wasn't good enough for this family. You made me believe that my dreams were delusions, that my success was exaggeration, that my worth was conditional on how well I served Amanda's needs. That's not true. It is true. And now you want me to accept less than I deserve because it would be more convenient for you. Just like always. I stood up. The offer is $50 million, plus attorney's fees, plus a legally binding no-contact agreement. You have 48 hours to accept it. If you don't, we go to trial, and I guarantee the jury will award me more. And if we can't pay $50 million? Dad asked. Then you'll declare bankruptcy, you'll lose everything, and you'll spend the rest of your lives knowing that Amanda's jealousy destroyed not just my career, but your entire family's financial future. Jessica, please. The meeting is over. I walked out of that conference room feeling lighter than I had in months. Behind me, I could hear Amanda crying, Mom pleading, Dad's angry voice saying something about what this family has become. But I didn't look back. 2 days later, Jennifer called. They accepted. $50 million, attorney's fees, and a no-contact agreement. All of it? Every penny. They're liquidating assets now. The paperwork should be finalized within the month. I hung up and sat in my apartment, looking out at the Los Angeles skyline. $50 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Justice served cold and expensive. But more than that, I had something I'd never had before. Complete freedom from my family's toxicity. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Jess, it's Amanda. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I hope someday you can forgive me. I read the message twice, then blocked the number. Some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. The settlement was finalized 3 weeks later. $50 million appeared in my account, plus another $2 million in attorney's fees. The no-contact agreement was registered with the court, making any future contact from my family a legal violation. I celebrated alone in my apartment, with a glass of champagne and a sense of completion I'd never experienced before. That night, I called Marcus Chen to thank him for his support during the lawsuit. "Jessica, you don't need to thank me. You stood up for yourself, and the industry stood up with you. That's how it should work. I couldn't have done it without people like you believing in me. The people who matter always believed in you. The people who didn't believe in you were just revealing who they really were." After I hung up, I realized he was right. The lawsuit hadn't just been about money or vindication. It had been about discovering who my real family was. It wasn't the people who shared my DNA. It was the people who celebrated my success, who supported me during crisis, who stood by me when the world was calling me a liar. My real family was Marcus Chen, who testified on my behalf; Sarah Walsh, who fought for me in court; the photographers and directors and brand executives who vouched for my character; the industry colleagues who rallied behind me when I was under attack. These were the people who loved me for who I actually was, not who they needed me to be. 6 months later, I bought a house in the Hollywood Hills. Not a mansion, I wasn't trying to show off, but a beautiful, peaceful place where I could build the life I'd always wanted. I threw a housewarming party and invited everyone who had supported me during the lawsuit. The house was full of laughter, champagne, and people who genuinely cared about my happiness. Marcus Chen raised a toast to Jessica Martinez, who taught us all that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Living well, that's exactly what I was doing. My career was better than ever. The Lux contract had led to others: Dior, Chanel, Versace. I was on the cover of Vogue's September issue. Movie offers were pouring in. I had more money than I could spend in a lifetime, but more importantly, I had peace. I had boundaries. I had self-respect. I'd learned the most important lesson of my life. You don't owe anyone access to your success, especially people who've spent years trying to diminish it. Sometimes I wondered what happened to my biological family. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that they'd had to sell the house, that Amanda had declared bankruptcy, that my parents were living in a small apartment and working past retirement age. I felt nothing about it. Not satisfaction, not guilt, not regret. Just nothing. They'd made their choices. I'd made mine. And for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I belonged. The final piece of closure came a year later when I received a package with no return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping, Amanda's wedding announcement. She'd married someone I didn't recognize, someone whose name I didn't know. The announcement was brief, placed in a small local paper rather than the society pages Mom had always dreamed of. At the bottom of the clipping, someone had handwritten a note. "She got her happy ending. Now you can have yours too." I didn't know who sent it, but I appreciated the gesture. I kept the clipping for exactly 1 day, then threw it away. Amanda's happy ending wasn't my concern anymore. I had my own life to live, and what a life it was becoming. Free from the people who had never truly supported me, I was discovering who I actually was when I wasn't constantly trying to earn love I'd never really had. I was stronger than I'd thought, kinder than I'd expected, more successful than I'd dared to dream. I was enough, all by myself, and that was the greatest victory of all.